not doing anything.
You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
Welcome on this fine Monday afternoon if you are on the East Coast. I'm your host, Michael Leibowitz. This is the Capitalist Corner on the Rational Alternative channel. Persephone's back, finally. She went on vacation. She was living it up, drinking mojitos, feet up, whatever, having a good old time while I was struggling. But she's back. We've got a lot to talk about today. Please remember we love your super chats and super stickers. Also, please remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel, The Rational Alternative. You can subscribe to us on Twitch. Persephone, what else you got to tell them?
Don't forget to find all of the shows on Spotify. And if you listen on Spotify, leave a rating because it helps with the algorithm. Also, go check out the website, www.thecapitalistcorner.org. And don't forget to check out all of the articles that Michael sends, which are very depressing, which you can find on the website, but also on the posts tab on the YouTube channel. And also consider becoming a channel member so that you can support the channel and also access cool extra content that regular plebs don't see.
Yeah, Persephone's supposed to be organizing some shows for extra content, but you know how that goes.
She's such a slacker.
So, anyway, I do have a good show prepared for today, but there is some breaking news that happened after I did all my reading for this morning. And that is that the Iranians evidently have called off the peace talks. Trump has been telling everybody how the Iranians are dying to make a deal, but he's going to be a thorough negotiator and he's not going to rush into a deal. And evidently they've now told him to, sawed off, as they say in Great Britain. I laugh because he's such a buffoon, but really it's sad because it's just incompetence, hubris on his part. Evidently, the Iranians have said that if Israel has to stop its strikes on Lebanon, if they are going to get back into the talks. The Saudi Arabians now are also saying they're pissed off at the Israelis. They're putting pressure now, saying the Israelis need to stop attacking Lebanon. These are the types of things that happen when you go to war. All of life contains uncertainties, right? Everything does. People have described economics as the science of the unintended consequences of human behavior. But when it's war, you're dealing with violence and you're dealing with a lot of moving parts, especially when you're in the Middle East, more so when you go to war, and have an ally beside you who may have or definitely does have a stronger interest in the war than what we have. So that's the breaking news. Iran has called off its talks. There has been some go back and forth strikes between Iran and the United States. No new ones as far as I could find before I came on the air since these strikes. Since they stopped the talks, and Saudi Arabia is putting pressure on Israel. So that's it. Iran wants the strikes on Lebanon to stop. Saudi Arabia wants the strikes on Lebanon to stop. We're going to have to just stay tuned. Trump the other day issued another threat about 24 hours, yada, yada, whatever. So that's it. Persephone, you seem very thrilled to be back. We got $2 from Jenna Kleem. Thank you, Jenna.
I am so thrilled. So much has changed in the world, in the news. It's definitely not the exact same stuff that's been going on for the past 3 months. But now I'm curious how many threats Trump has actually made.
Are you going to Google that? That'd be great.
I am.
Before I move on to the next story, that'd be an interesting thing to know. One of the things that has been touted is that we need to have deterrence And that the problem is we've let Iran get away with this stuff for so long that there's no deterrence. But I can assure you that repeatedly threatening somebody and not following through is not a deterrent. So how many? What's our answer?
So three major ones. Hold on. Three major ones and a whole bunch of little ones. Let me see if I can get a firmer number. About eight. Eight deadline-related threats Trump has made.
Okay. And he doesn't follow through on any of them.
No, and these are just the ultimatum, not the weird unhinged like rants, just actual ultimatums. Is about eight.
Okay, so I got to continue. This always does this with this Epic Times. I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to donate anything. So the oil companies evidently are not ramping up production. So the war in Iran, which continues to trap about 1/5 of the world's oil supply in the Persian Gulf, is seen by many as a golden opportunity for American oil companies to expand their position as the world's leading energy producer. But they're holding off, and one of the reasons one of the reasons they're holding off, it seems, is that if this war ends, the price of oil will, presumably drop again. So they don't want to go in and start investing, anticipating this, basically a lot of profits, and then the price drops. They invest at, the current rate or whatever they have to put into it, and then the price drops and they end up losing money. Uncertainty is not good for business, right? You need to know within at least, have some reasonable expectations of what's occurring and what is going to occur. And it's very difficult to have that, as we already discussed, in war. So we're not getting the investments that the people would like to see.
I mean, not just with war, just with the way that Trump behaves in everything, it's kind of hard to have any kind of certainty, not just in the US and not just with oil, but with almost everything, because he does things with no rhyme or reason. And like we talk about the war in Iran, that came kind of really out of the blue for whatever reasons were stated that weren't the truth. And that like plunged pretty much the whole world into chaos, and it's not the only time that he's done something like that. So how can anybody in any industry have any certainty at all?
Now, evidently, Japan stock markets abroad, evidently, in Japan and South Korea specifically, are doing well. Their tech-related stocks are up. The Japan, I don't know how to pronounce this, Nikkei, I think 225 rose 0.9%, and South Korea's Kospi jumped 3.7%. So in South Korea, the Kospi indexed 3.7% to a record. So they seem to be doing okay over there. Meanwhile, here in the States, there's a new inflation warning from the bond market, which is higher interest rates. People don't want to lend to the government unless they're going to be getting more back. So the price of borrowing money seems to be going up. There's just a lot of problems everywhere, Persephone, which is kind of, I think, why you were a little upset today.
Yeah.
When you looked at the stuff.
I mean, none of it is very hopeful, is it?
No. We also have another article here from Newsmax where Iran war energy costs have wiped out the Trump tax refund boost. 3 months into the U.S.-Iran war, fuel costs have swallowed the tax refund gains American households expected this year. So we had a situation where we were getting tax refunds, which would have been, nice to get. But now the rise in the cost of gas based on Trump's other policies, namely the war in Iran, is wiping those out as well. Now, I promise everybody, I'm going rapidly through these, but I promise you folks, we're going somewhere, right? We are definitely going somewhere with these, with this stuff. And before I get to the next sort of topic, I want to just Hassett, Trump's National Economic Council director, Kevin Hassett, says that really positive news on the economy is ignored. He made the claim that real wages, he says, on balance, real incomes, real wages are going up. But the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics report showed wages did not keep pace with inflation in April, as wages increased 3.6%, while inflation rose 3.8%. Part of the problem that we have, Persephone, with this administration, politicians lie. They've all lied. They always have lied. But these people will blatantly lie about things that you can go find easily. It's not like they're saying, well, if you look at it this way, like it's just not true, a lot of the things that they say. So wages, according to the latest data, are not keeping pace with inflation.
True, very true. The reason that they can get away with that is because they know that the vast majority of people are not going to go and fact check, because there's still this politicians have always lied, but they have usually been more subtle about their lies. And there's like this holdover sentiment that politicians might fudge the truth, but they won't outright lie. And there's still this holdover sentiment, so that when they do say stuff like that, there's almost the sentiment that it must be kind of the truth. And also, there's too many things that people have to fact check during the day. So they'll see this, but then also during the course of the day, they'll see a million other headlines and they'll see a million other claims. So they'll be on Facebook and they'll see headlines about Iran and about oil and about the economy and about this and about that. And if they had to fact check every one of those headlines, they would go insane. So at least 80% of the stuff that they're seeing is just being absorbed. And whether they consciously believe it or not, that's something that they've absorbed, and either they don't have a reason to fact check it, or it's just one other thing in a long line of things that they have to fact check, which most people just don't have time for.
On most issues, I agree with you. When it comes to pocketbook stuff, though, telling people that, believe us, not your lying bank accounts and not your lying eyes, is a different scenario. Like, I know that I'm getting less mileage now per how much money I'm putting in my gas tank. I know that they used to, when I go to this place, Fresh Market, on Thursday nights, they have a nice meal deal they give you. A few, a month or 2 months, whatever, it was $5. Now it's $7, right? People tend to notice that kind of stuff. I'm not taking away from your broader point. I'm just saying specifically to the issue of the economy, it's very tone deaf for Kevin Hassett to go on and say that the economy is really doing well.
It is, but then also if you see the sentiment polls, people know that it's bullshit. So that's not really something that they have to fact check, because sentiment trust is at an all-time low, basically, and that's what he's responding to. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't trust us? What do you mean you feel broke and poor? Like, your wages have gone up, stupid idiots. But people, the people know that that's bullshit because they can see it in their own lives.
So these are some of the, maybe I should have done this in reverse order, but that doesn't really matter, I suppose. But these are some of the effects of poor governance that we're talking about. Bad economic policies, lack of freedom. I understand the war complicates things, and war is sometimes necessary. This one, necessary right now? I don't think so. I know it's unconstitutional, and I know it's being run by an imbecile. But there are other things like we can see. I mean, there's a story today in Reason magazine. The FCC wants warning labels on shows now that are going to have transgender content. They want more government involvement. Now, of course, well, we're not really telling anybody what to do. It's just a label. Look, it's not your fucking business. Stay out of it. Why don't you people stick to defending rights, defending us from attacks, and stop trying to police what people see and what people are willing to put on television? Mind your business. And on top of that, there was in 1996, there was a Telecommunications Act where broadcasters developed content ratings for shows. And evidently it was told to them that if the networks do this themselves, then the government wouldn't have to get involved. The networks did. Evidently the government wants to get involved. I guess it's a big, big problem where you're seeing transsexuals on TV and everybody's freaking out. Of course, that's not happening. The interesting thing to me, Persephone, about this one is that teenagers, are far less freaked out by trans stuff than their boomer grandparents are. Right? So, like, these people are like, these kids are going to see this. And the kids are like, I see it at school. I see it when I go to the park. I don't care. This isn't something to freak out about. Yeah, but Jesus and the Bible, and you shouldn't be saying, just go fuck off. Go sit in your stupid little community. Gather around the Bible. Raise your flag. Pray to each other and tell each other how the world's falling apart. Stop trying to impose your views by force on other people.
With little kids, it's because parents don't want their little children, like under 10, right? They don't want them to see it. That's stupid, but that's why. With teenagers and any child that's old enough to have social media, they're far more likely to see not just content with transgender people, but perhaps like content that could be labeled as radicalization. They're far more likely to see that on social media or in the communities where they hang out, rather than on a TV program that just happens to feature a transgender like actor or actress. So, I mean, the whole thing is dumb to me, because you're trying to censor one small aspect when, if this was really a problem, which it's not, if exposing your kids to the idea or the concept of transgenderism, if that was really such an issue, then you would have to censor so much more. And at that point, just become Amish. Just destroy your child's phone, destroy your phone, get off the internet, go and move to a commune, and then save us from yourself.
Who am I taking meds from? If you're talking about government paid for meds, I'm all for it. Take it from them. So I don't know if that is your. I don't know what your point is. I think what he's talking about are, if you take the medications from the transsexuals, watch how they would complain. And I'll tell you what, if the government stopped providing them with medications and they complained, I'd be talking about on the show how they're not entitled to medications. So there's that.
Unfortunately, they're not
entitled to medication.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you? I don't think it's unfortunately.
For them, they think it's unfortunate because.
Well, they might, but I don't know if that's a universal thing. I don't know, but either way, like, I'm not all like this. I'll tell you something that happened the other day, because I'll tell you two things that happened and related to this issue. The other day, a girl from my town, she posted on Facebook something about Pride Month. I don't know. I don't really, a single town bachelor, I don't care if it's cost prohibitive. Nobody has a right to have somebody else pay for their medication, whatever that medication may be. So anyways, the other day, this girl from my town, not girl, she's older than I am, but she posted something about Pride Month. So another guy from my town steps in, a big Trumpster. Why are we celebrating Pride Month, but there's no Veterans Month? So somebody else comes in and says, actually, oh, I agree with that. Oh, yeah, that's my boy Race. Okay. I said, the girl says to him, another girl, actually, there is a Veterans Month, all of November. There, in addition to being Veterans Day, there's also a month to celebrate veterans and their families. She went through quite a list that I can't remember off the top of my head. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but, this stuff comes up. But now, did the guys who were bitching about this come out and say, oh, wow, I didn't know that?
No.
Of course not. One of them says, yeah, but they don't call it Veterans Month. They call it Pride Month. I don't, if you want to celebrate veterans, go do it. I mean, there is a Veterans Month. You can make a bigger deal about it if you want to. Veterans can make a bigger deal about it if they want to. But
there's so many named months and so many like awareness months and so many different colors of ribbon, and if you don't like it, then don't pay attention to it. It doesn't affect you.
So now there's also this. I'm going to show you what we got here. Stacy is right on X. This is just some dumbass religious fanatic idiot. June is Pride Month. Instead of celebrating anal sex, scissoring, and trans-tarred mental illness, I'm taking pride in being a white American Christian. Normal is the new rebellious. Happy June, freaks. So I commented, now just keep in mind what she said. This is what I said. No power over being white, likely born here, so had nothing to do with being American. The only thing she's responsible for that she's proud of is an irrational belief system. Plus, she's a bigot. All the ratios, because she threatens to ratio people, all the ratios in the world won't change these things. Using the evolved faculties of volition and reason could do the trick, but no one should hold their breath. So now this other guy tells me, you call people who deny trans kids bigots. Okay, first of all, that's not why I called her a bigot. Secondly, she didn't deny trans kids. She's openly mocking and disparaging homosexuals. That's why I called her a bigot. Plus, she's a moron. But evidently, I mean, these people get so wrapped up in their certainty over their non-reasoned positions, and they just talk to each other about how smart they are all fucking day. And then when they see a different viewpoint, they're like, oh my God, there's no way that can be true. I saw it on Tucker, or Newsmax or whatever. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I don't understand personally. I just don't why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? I don't go around asking random people what they're doing in their bedrooms. Like, what does it matter? In the grand scheme of things, your life,
I have to think about Sigmund Freud's defense mechanism of reaction formation. Do you know what that is?
No.
Look it up. It'll be a hoot, I promise.
Okay, so
look it up. Reaction formation, please. I think you're going to get a kick out of this. It's going to be nice. You're going to get a chuckle.
An unconscious psychological defense mechanism where a person deals with unacceptable thoughts or feelings by adopting behaviors that are the exact opposite.
Otherwise known as the woman doth protest too much.
Yeah, the guys who are the most homophobic are usually the most homosexual deep down.
Right. I mean, they can't get this giant schlong out of their minds, so they're constantly out there talking about it. But whatever.
So, but just before you go on, so a Singletown bachelor asked, do you know what it costs per person per year? So I Googled this because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had to guess what the annual cost per person for sex change medications are.
The problem here is I'm guessing there's a wide variation, because you might have somebody that's on puberty blockers, you might have somebody that's taking hormones, you might have some.
Give me the upper.
I'm gonna guess $1,200 a year.
that is the upper limit for masculinizing hormones. So feminizing hormones 240 to 800, and then masculinizing hormones up to 1 2, which, like, look, it is expensive, but there's plenty
Look,
of things that are expensive in
right.
life.
Yes, the government shouldn't be providing them. So now we can pick on the other side a little bit here because they're horrible. We've got Chris Murphy, who's from my hometown, Weathersfield, Connecticut. He's the senator from Connecticut, my state. And he's evidently upset with the cost of hockey, that he's paying too much for his child to play hockey. He says that capitalism is killing youth hockey and buying up the rituals of American childhood. He says it's causing a crisis of resentment. But here's the thing. First of all, you don't have a right to hockey, right? You don't have a right for your kid to play hockey. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to play hockey. Of course, if I would have played, I would have quit because I would have hated it. But I did want to play. It was too expensive. Hockey is more expensive than the other sports because it requires additional things. The indoor cool rink. You got to have all the equipment going on. Yeah, ice hockey. So there's a lot of things that make it more expensive. Bottom line, you don't like it, don't pay for it. I remember I had an argument with a CO one day who was bitching about he wanted to take his son to a Patriots game. And he's like, it is so expensive to take it's ridiculous how expensive it is to take my kid. I can't even have a nice day out with my son at the Patriots game. Everything's so expensive. You know why it's so expensive? Because people like you are so desirous to go, right? You have to pay for things in this world. If you want to say, look, if you want to complain and say the government policies, right, through use of force are driving up costs, I'm with you. But when you're talking about prices that are stemming from voluntary behavior, if you don't like the price, don't do it. You don't have a fucking right for your kid to play hockey.
There's another aspect to this that I don't think enough people pay attention to. If it wasn't for the potential for profits for companies to create the rinks and to manage the rinks, how many less would you have if that was all community funded and it wasn't for profit and there was nothing in it for these businesses or these corporations? If there was nothing in it for them to create those things, how many less would there be? So you want the benefits of these corporations to build and manage and all of that. But then the second there's a profit in it for them, then all of the benefits, the fact that there are now, I can't remember how many, because in the article they mentioned the specific corporation that owns like a percentage of the rinks. If they weren't making profits, then those rinks wouldn't exist. So you want the benefits, but you don't want the people creating those benefits to benefit. So there's this weird misunderstanding. If it wasn't for the corporations, you wouldn't have most of the things that you have. Those benefits go away as soon as the corporations can't make profit on it. That seems so obvious to me.
Well, it is obvious, but perhaps not to everybody. Can you give a quick station update, channel update, advertisements, that sort of thing?
The channel update is, I hope nobody is scared by the fact that the channel is now called The Rational Alternative, but the URL for the website is still thecapitalistcorner.org. Please go and check it out. Check out the merch, check out the show notes, check out the recommended reading, and the resources, because we have a fabulous list of books that Mark and Michael both recommended, separated into philosophy and economics and all of that kind of stuff. And we've got blogs, and we've got merch, cool merch, 3 different shows, members only shorts, members only videos, extra Q&As coming up. Become a channel member. It starts at $5.
Awesome, Persephone. So before I get on to the next anti-freedom story, I want to just share another funny Twitter anecdote. So yesterday I came across a post where Dave Smith wants to debate the guys from the Daily Wire, and he says that they're afraid to debate him because they won't debate him. So I make the point, it's interesting that when they won't debate you, it has to be out of fear, but when you won't debate me, it's just because you're not interested. My point is, it's hypocritical. There's a lot, and I don't think the guy's afraid to debate me because there's a lot of reasons somebody won't debate somebody, right? So in come his loyal, useful idiots.
Suckers.
Yeah. And they keep telling me, you're not well known enough for Dave to debate, or Dave has a family, he can't debate everybody. And they don't realize that they're making my point for me. Like they think they're arguing with me. And I told about 5 of them now, yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you for making my point. There are a variety of reasons to not debate somebody, assuming fear is not justified. But they're too dumb to understand that. They can't think in principle, so there you go. Now, a story in Reason magazine, shocker, this is a shocker, shows that Trump's attack on these drug boats are not affecting the amount of cocaine coming into the country. There's a variety of ways that they can tell this. Let me see if I can find... there hasn't been a decline of coke seized at the border. That's one thing. Let me see. There's a few other. I want to make sure that I get them here. Street prices for cocaine. They're dumb and dishonest. The two aren't mutually exclusive. The price of street drugs are not going up. The things that they cut coke with isn't really going up. Oh, overdose is not going down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no evidence that the strikes on drug boats are working. But what we do is double down on the anti-freedom policies that so many people seem to want, namely here, drug prohibition.
Because it makes such a difference and it only has positive effects. As we've seen in history, prohibition created no negative effects. It was only good. Also, Ian, just to backtrack just for a second. Ian says hockey always equals ice hockey. Is that true? Do you guys not play like regular hockey on
What do you
like,
mean
grass?
regular hockey? Field hockey?
Well, we just call it hockey.
Yeah, but you're not even a real country.
That's very true.
So, I mean, yes, when normal people talk about hockey, and by normal people I mean North Americans, what we mean is ice hockey. Yes, if we want to say field hockey, we say field hockey.
Okay. That's very interesting because we barely have ice hockey here, so we play a lot of regular hockey.
You do have baboons.
That's true. We do have baboons. Anyway, prohibition doesn't work. If you pay attention to anything in history, that's obvious. And if you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, then you're stupid. And I don't really feel like more needs to be said there.
Well, I think that you're onto something, so we won't say anything more about that. One more anti-capitalist, anti-freedom scare tactic that is often employed is the, I don't know who's heard it in regard to trade, but the Chinese are buying up all of our farmland, right? We hear that sort of thing over and over and over again. There's a good article today in The Independent. Now, when Persephone shares this, I fact-checked the Independent article against both Grok, ChatGPT, and I think maybe even Claude, and they did find some factual inaccuracies. But the main points that I wanted to get across are largely accurate. And what are you looking like that? What are you doing?
Sorry, I'm just double checking. Was that not the Daily Economy?
No. Oh, maybe.
Okay.
No. The Daily. Hold on.
There is an article in the Daily Economy about
yes, you know what? No. I'm sorry. Persephone, you saved the day. The Daily Economy article actually was very accurate. It was there's another one we're going to get to that I forgot all about vaping.
Oh, yes.
I forgot
So,
about the vaping, which is another anti-freedom thing. So in relation to the farmland, wow, Persephone, you really saved my bacon on that one. Thank you. So Chinese linked ownership, it's roughly 248,000 acres as of 2025. That represents something like, where's the number here?
0.02%.
0.02 to 0.03% of total U.S. farmland, and it's under 1% of total foreign held land is owned by the Chinese. They're not exactly taking over America's farms over there in China, right? So just don't buy it. Now, the article does say there's some concerns about them being near military bases, for spying purposes, that sort of thing. But by and large, it's not an issue. It's certainly not an economic issue.
How much does Canada own?
I think they own like 30 or maybe even more. 70%, is it, of total foreign owned land by the Canadians?
Yeah, so it's a scare tactic, but it's also racism.
Now I got to go
Um,
find this again. I got to go look it back up.
yeah, it's a scare tactic, it's racism, and then if you look at what the Chinese are actually using the farmland for, I think in the daily economy they talk about the fact that one of the major land holdings is
Canada owns 1/3.
yeah, right. So the one Chinese owned like thing is US producing, employs US citizens. Like what is your problem? These people who are like, "Oh no, China owns farmland." What's your problem if it's creating jobs for Americans, producing for Americans? What is your issue other than the fact that like the Chinese scare you? That's what I would like to know. Especially when you don't seem to have a problem with the fact that Canada owns 1/3, whereas what China owns is a macroeconomic rounding error, according to the Daily Economy. So what's the problem other than racism?
I think that people like to criticize, people like when they drumming up fear is a very successful thing for politicians to do. So you drum up fear about the Chinese, they're taking over, they're doing all these things, and then you can get across these stupid policies, and your stupid voters will vote for you. That's why.
Yeah, it's all very dumb. Um, I don't know what else to say about that. TikTok is evil because it's owned by China, and therefore they're doing nefarious and evil things with your data, and you have to sell it to an American company, or we're going to ban it because we don't like not having control over everything. That's what the US government said. And then had some of the world's stupidest questions to the CEO of TikTok, like how many times he said like I'm from Singapore, I am Singaporean, and they were like, "Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party?" He's like, "I'm from Singapore." "Have you served for the Chinese Communist Party?" "I am from Singapore." Racism, stupidity, general idiocy.
All right. Now for the article that actually did have some problems with the fact checking. It's this FDA's war on vaping seems to be coming to an end. The bottom line is this. I don't want to get into the particular numbers because those are disputed and who was fired and when and who resigned for what or whatever. Vaping is considerably healthier than smoking. I shouldn't say. It's significantly less harmful than smoking.
Except for younger children.
Well, nobody should be doing it. I'm not recommending it. I'm
No,
saying
very true.
Yeah,
I'm just
are you
clarifying.
saying that for children smoking would be less harmful than vaping?
No, but what I am saying is that for children under the age of about like before their lungs are fully developed, they have a much higher risk of developing popcorn lung. Is it like worse than smoking? No, but also
Okay.
like younger children
Can
are
I just
they
tell you something? Can I tell you how irritated it gets me? How irritable? How I don't know which word. I'm irritated, so it's hard to say. That we're having a conversation about products for adults, but yet because of the environment, we somehow have to step in and like you felt the need. My guess is because of YouTube censorship or because somebody might misunderstand, and you have. But the children, like if somebody was out here, if somebody were advertising dildos, would somebody feel the need to step in and say, well, they're not good for the kids, right?
It's
Of
just
course
it's
not.
just because I have children in my life who I have caught vaping and then have to be
For
like, "Hello,
fuck's sake, though,
you're gonna get popcorn lung."
I don't want to be in a situation in my life where every time we have a conversation, like we're talking about drug prohibition earlier, do we need to step in and say, but the kids, it shouldn't be, the kids shouldn't allow it,
I
the
don't
kids.
think I don't think that it makes a difference. Like I think that the parents are in control of that. Like vapes shouldn't be banned just because like kids can get popcorn
Okay,
lung.
so the bottom line is my point stands that vaping is significantly less harmful than smoking cigarettes.
True,
I would bet that holds against any demographic,
probably.
age groups included. It also is effective, more effective than the recommendations that come from the government as far as what helps to kick smoking. Now, only 68 deaths have occurred in regard to vaping, but those 68 deaths have nothing to do with vaping per se. It has to do with predominantly black market products that contain contaminants, namely, what was it, vitamin E, Persephone?
Vitamin E acetate, I think.
Yeah, vitamin E acetate. So the government, this is another assault on freedom. We have to ban, you can't have flavors. And what's the big argument for not having flavors, Persephone?
Because it appeals to children.
Because of the children, yes. Adults should just be denied the right to do everything, I guess, because the children might get a hold of it. You know what? Perhaps the parents should be the ones to prevent the children from getting it and not have the government restrain everybody else's freedom.
But
That's
the thing is, you already have to be over a certain age to legally purchase these things anyway. So what more
I agree, but
could they do?
but 5 minutes ago you felt like you had to jump in and tell me about the kids.
Yeah, again, because so I used to smoke. I was a smoker. I started smoking when I was just wait. I've got a point.
I doubt
So
it.
I started smoking when I was 11, right? And I switched over to vaping to quit smoking because cigarettes are terrible and they'll kill you, and also they stink and are horrible. So I switched over to vaping, and I don't know, flavors appealed to me. I didn't want to smoke like unflavored, ugh. And vaping helped me to stop smoking. So to say like, oh well, we can't do it because of the kids. The only reason I brought up the popcorn lung thing is again because I have kids in my life, and it's interesting to me because I didn't know that. It's an interesting fact that children are more susceptible to the popcorn lung from specific flavors found in vape liquid.
So Katie says, but kids still find adults to buy for them. Yes, and therefore everything should be banned because an adult. Oh, wait. You know how harmful cheeseburgers are?
So bad.
And even if you ban them for kids, an adult might buy them for the kids. Ban cheeseburgers. Soda, terrible for kids. Adults shouldn't be able to drink it. Ban it. Liquor, not good for kids. I know kids can get their hands on it. I did. Ban
So did
liquor
I.
for everybody.
Red
Kids get harmed. They get run over. They cross the street. We should ban
Ban cars.
cars. Right. I mean, it's just absurd. You don't make rules for adults based on what a kid might get his hands on.
But it also it has this weird other effect where the more the government steps in to moderate what parents can and can't do, and you see this in like the more nanny-ish countries like in New Zealand where the government mandates what has to be in a child's lunchbox. it actually seems to make parents more hands off because they're like, well, I don't need to manage my kids and I don't need to discipline my kids because it's the responsibility of the government to make sure that my kids can't get their hands on anything, and it's the responsibility of the public schools to make sure that, you know, my kids are learning X, Y, and Z, so I don't have to do anything. And it creates these parents who are just like, well, I'll rely on everybody else to raise my children and to educate my children and to not. It's just dumb. It's dumb, and it has the opposite effect. It doesn't make kids more safe. It just makes them less safe. Makes their parents more irresponsible.
Do you want to deal with Katie's comment?
Yes, I do. You cannot control your children. What you can do is you can educate your children. And if you are not educating your children and you're not having like frank and honest conversations and you're not explaining to your kids, as long as they're old enough to understand, if you're not educating them and all you're trying to do is control them, of course they're gonna rebel. Uh, have a
Yeah.
discussion. Raise your kids to be responsible. Teach them about
Yeah.
the consequences of their actions.
You know what else
and
you
then
can
don't have-
do? You can make things illegal, but black markets still pop up. And kids still get their hands on it. And when it's in a black market, the chances of it being contaminated are far greater.
That's true. But I mean, also just
Also,
have
I hate the LOL. When people do that, like it annoys the fuck out of me. The LOL at the end. LOL, like, yeah, wonderful. Like,
You know what I find
we're
so-
having
I
a
find-
serious conversation, but you feel the need to throw an LOL at the end.
I find it interesting that like most acronyms you read, like when you read them, you read the acronym, but when I read LOL, I don't read laugh out loud. I just read lol.
I don't know, but I just it's something. LOL, like it's like I'm 50 years old. You know what I mean? So
The thing that I find so annoying about that, Katie says you can have the conversations. But
yeah,
they're gonna do
everybody
what they want.
knows that, Katie. Nobody's denying that. What we're saying is human beings have rights, individual rights, and the government will not be able to prevent what they're claiming they're going to prevent. I think, see, I'm going to calm down
Deep breaths.
and we're going to move on. We're going to move on because I actually do want to talk about Anomie.
Oh yes, this was nice. I enjoyed this.
Okay. So Anomie, let's see. I want to make sure that I get it right before we talk about it. Anomie was originally what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to say discovered, hypothesized, theorized by Emil Durkheim. First, before I even say that, though, I should mention this. There is this article in Axios today. It's called The Rattle Generation, a unified theory of America's moment. And it talks about we're living through the most disorienting societal moment since World War II. And almost nobody in a position of power is explaining why or what to do about it. I don't even like that assumption, like we have to have somebody in power explaining it. It talks about, there's a lot of good news out there. Total U.S. wealth has soared. Violent crime is down. It's still falling. Life expectancy just hit 79 years. The country produces more energy. Yet consumer sentiment has hit its lowest reading in half a century. Gallup finds most people think they're getting worse. And they talk here about three things that perhaps have caused this. They say social media's rise, the chaos of COVID, and the rise of AI. But they also talk about, the different sort of silos that people live in, the echo chambers, where there's no sort of centered source of information, that you're sitting down next to somebody on a plane, for instance, and that person gets his information or her information from somebody you've never heard of, and vice versa. So Anomie, now I can actually get to it because that's what actually got me thinking about Anomie, because read about anomie when I was studying criminology. So anomie in societies or individuals, a condition of instability resulting from a breakdown of standards and values or from a lack of purpose or ideals. Interestingly, though, while I think that there is something to this, that I think there's a lot of change going on rapidly, and people have a difficult time adjusting to it. You also have a breakdown in trust that's well deserved, by the way. Anomie, spell anomie for him. I think it's
Anomie.
Anomie. And yeah, so
Anomie.
Anomie.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Oy vey. Hold on. Okay, so it seems to me that we do have that rapid change takes place. The elites, our sources of information, the experts, whatever, have the media has lost a lot of credibility. The medical experts have lost credibility. The government, of course, sucks. As far as credibility goes. I mean, look, we got Trump in the White House, and the people that oppose him, lie almost as much as he does. Well, I shouldn't say almost as much, but they do lie an awful lot. So I was curious, I wanted to know, so I asked Claude about this, and I asked Claude if he, or I say he because if I could say it, I asked Claude if it would identify this as a period of anomie, and he says it's contested, and it says here's a fair mapping. So the case for is that there's norm collapse in the information environment, there's institutional delegitimization, accelerating social change, mental health data, and loss of intermediate institutions. But anomie requires an absence of norms. And what it's saying is that what we actually have are competing norms. It's not that there aren't norms. There's not a vacuum. It's that norms across different variations or, different silos, so to speak, or different ideologies are conflicting with each other. Also, the populism is they're trying to bring back norms, trying to assert norms. It says, though, that Merton, I don't really want to get into that, so I'm going to ignore it, but new norms are forming and not absent. So it says the most defensible position is probably that we are experiencing something Durkheim adjacent but not identical to classic anomie. But I do think that there's I was thinking along about this, Persephone, this morning along multiple dimensions, right? Because on one hand, I see it all the time that there's this sort of breakdown in norms or, conflicting norms, conflicting information systems, conflicted beliefs, all kinds of things, which would indicate there's sort of a societal breakdown occurring. On the other hand, if I never went on social media, if I didn't, if I just got, maybe the 15 minutes of news a night on the 6:30 news and ended it there, and I went on and, I didn't do this, for a living, and I just did my real estate title search job, I wouldn't notice all these problems.
No.
I wouldn't see them. I wouldn't experience them. I go out, people are generally polite. I would notice things obviously like higher prices, or if there were less properties that I had to find, the titles for, I would notice stuff like that. But I wouldn't notice the rudeness that I find online. I wouldn't notice how different everybody is in their belief systems. There's a lot of these things that I just wouldn't pick up on. So I'm wondering just how common this stuff really is amongst your average person. The problem, though, is if you want to impact the environment you're living in, right, unless you just want to get steamrolled by whatever political policies come in, you have to stay informed. So I don't know the answer, but I don't know the solution, I should say, but I am curious about the actual degree to which this stuff is taking place.
Probably more than people realize, because I think everybody to some extent, like they use some form of social media and they are exposed in some form to these spaces, right? Like the older generations have Facebook groups, the younger generations have like Reddit communities and streamers that they watch on Twitch and like people that they follow on Instagram. Everybody, most people have some form of like online life. And the the data on the amount of information that people see during a day, like the number of bits of information that a person sees during the day on social media is like quite staggering actually. And a lot of that they're not really conscious of. They're just sort of seeing it and absorbing it because, you know, when you get onto social media, a lot of the time you're doing this mindless scrolling thing, which is really bad because it means that they're absorbing it subconsciously. Um, so I think even people who aren't like as chronically online as some of these other people, even the ones who are just, you know, using Facebook and scrolling, blah, 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 even they are seeing some of the effects of this because it's almost impossible to be completely isolated from social media because your friends live far away and you need to communicate with people. So I think it's a lot more common, but the people who are the most chronically online and who are the most serious about staying in their echo chambers, they probably struggle with this the most.
Okay, so you did post today's readings,
I
right?
did.
Okay, so Persephone posted them. I think I shared them. I hope so. If not, I
Mm-hmm.
will. I'll check. So I think it's been a good show. I thank you for the super chats, super stickers. I thank everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate it. If you've joined us from X and you like what you see, you should check us out. The YouTube channel is The Rational Alternative. We have different shows. This is just one. This is the Capitalist Corner. 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. We do Everyday Ethics, where we discuss a variety of ethical issues from an egoistic perspective. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we do Crime, Corrections, and Culture, where we discuss the criminal justice system with no hoopla, no hyperbole, just the straight facts. On Saturdays at noon for the time being. We're going to end up changing the time. I just don't know till when. We do Capitalist Corner Weekend. And if you become a member of the channel, there are a lot of things on the side that you can get, that you can see shorts from Mark Pellegrino and me, where we talk about a variety of issues. We also are going to be putting out more shows, more content over there. And on the overall channel, we got more shows coming down the pike. Persephone, anything else?
No, that's it.
All
Can't
right,
think of
let me
anything else.
see. I was hoping that you did this, but I can't expect you to do everything.
Hoping I did what?
Go to YouTube from Friday to see what the answers to the questions are, or how people answered the question.
Ah, I mean,
Ah, okay. Let's see. This is a very
Watership.
important thing. We ask
What was it?
questions every day, and then we read the answers out and see what people
What
have to
is it?
say.
What is your favorite fiction book? So Akira says The Fountainhead. Teresa says The Gambler by Dostoevsky. Ian Gilmore says Watership Down by Richard Adams. Ringworld by Larry Niven. Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. A Fire Upon the Deep by Werner Vinge. The Dragon's Path by Daniel Abraham.
All right.
That was the answers.
Okay, so here is today's capitalist thought of the day. As always, I try to integrate the subjects that I bring on the show. So what we've seen today is that there are a lot of anti-freedom policies. There are a lot of people who aren't very much interested in freedom. They have an interest in scaring you and making you think things are much worse than they are. for whatever, their own personal gain, personal power. And there are some negative results that we've seen, rising inflation, wages not keeping track. We do have a war going on. And of course, we do have a lot of disconnection in our we don't, the common values, the common norms, even our information sources are very skewed. So people wind up thinking very differently about topics based on their information. So the question is, what can we do? And what we can do is be diligent and vigilant in our information sources. We can get our information from a variety of places, for that different mainstream media, different ideologies. We can check, fact check, use AI to help us. In short, use the changes that are coming in AI, in social media, to help be better informed, not less informed, and always submit the information to your faculty of reason. That is the way, my friends. Thank you so much, everybody. Persephone, give them a question.
Today's news was really depressing, so my question to the audience is, tell me something that makes you happy. I don't care what it is, just anything. Anything that makes you happy.
Thank you, everybody. Until tomorrow, well, please check us out today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Everyday Ethics, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time for Crime, Corrections, and Culture. And join us back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And until all that, please remember to check your premises. Peace.